I was in two minds about whether to discuss Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 1 and 2 as separate videos or to discuss them in the one video. And I made the decision to discuss them in separate videos, partly because they're different seasons of The Simpsons. Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 1 is the 25th and final episode of the 6th season. It aired in July 1995. Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 2 aired in October, and it's the first episode of the 7th season, and I definitely prefer one over the other. And I also wanted to dedicate a bit of time talking with spoilers in the Part 2 about who actually shot Mr. Burns. But there won't be any spoilers whatsoever in this Part 1, other than a brief outline of what you can expect from the episode. I've only seen these episodes once. I've only seen both of them once, and I have very strong views about Part 2. Part 1 I really enjoyed. The anticipation was pretty incredible, and I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know going into this who shot Mr. Burns. I had intentionally avoided that spoiler. I'm not going to spoil anything here. It's definitely very unique for The Simpsons to do a two-parter, certainly a two-parter that spreads over 2 seasons, and it's definitely a very big subject. Now, apparently there was a competition run at the time asking viewers to write in with who they thought shot Mr. Burns, and as far as I can remember, there were only 2 people who got it correct. And I will say that I couldn't work it out. I'm not going to tell you who I thought it was. I did have ideas in my head of who I thought it was. I was not correct. Please let me know if you were able to work it out, but no spoilers, just in case anybody hasn't seen it. It was directed by Jeffrey Lynch, and this Part 1 I think is very gripping. It starts off with Mr. Burns being Mr. Burns. There is oil that is found in Springfield Elementary, which is fantastic. The school's going to get a lot of money. But Mr. Burns manages to find a way of getting that oil for himself. And he realizes that he can also harvest more money from people by making them use more power. By blocking out the sun. He puts a big dome over Springfield that blocks out the natural light, meaning people have to spend money using artificial light. And people are fed up. There is a meeting in the town held in the evening, late evening. It's quite dark, very atmospheric. Everybody's gathered together, trying to work out what to do about Mr. Burns. And then, obviously, Mr. Burns is shot. Who shot Mr. Burns? And the way it's done is very clever. I don't want to spoil too much about what you can expect, but it's very clever in the sense that it makes it basically impossible to know for certain who it was. And I had my ideas. Maybe in the second part I'll discuss who I thought it could have been. But I don't want to do that here because I don't want to give any hint at who it was or wasn't. But I like the idea that it's this mystery that certainly back in the day would have had a lot of people talking about it, would have got a lot of people doing little problem solving. I say it's much easier now. I couldn't work it out, but in a day where we can rewatch and binge watch the episodes back to back and pause it and look for clues, it's much easier than watching it on broadcast. Maybe you can tape it on your VHS to watch back again. But when you've just got the episode and you've just got the ability to watch it once, then you have to wait months for the next episode, it must have been agonizing if you're a Simpsons fan. So, in a way, I kind of wish I'd had that experience. But never mind. I still really thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it's a fantastic idea. I'm glad they didn't do this kind of thing every season, because it would have got old really quickly. But this first part, I preferred to the second part. It had a lot of style and a lot of substance and a lot of mystery. And although it's not one of my personal favourites in terms of enjoyment, and certainly when I go back to watch it again at some point, which I'm sure I will, it won't have an element of mystery about it. But at the time, I was glued. It's definitely the most compelling episode of The Simpsons because I didn't want to miss a single second, as I didn't want to miss a single clue. They definitely created a pretty great thing with this.